Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Less than 40 days to Election Day. We are joined today by congressional candidate in Maryland's 6th District, Neil Parrott, Delegate Neil Parrott, representing Western Maryland, District 2A, and he's been in legislature since 2011. Welcome to the show, Neil, and my co-host tonight is Jackie Saxton, who's the normal. I'm filling in for Mark Unkelfer, who's off in Copenhagen.
Wow, that sounds fun. Hey, it's great to be on the show with you, Dwight and Jackie. Thanks for having me tonight.
Absolutely. It's definitely been a minute since we've had you on. I think last time was back during the primary. So since then, what have you been up to prepare for going against David Trone again?
Well, a lot. This campaign is really moving quickly now, and it's very exciting. You can look at different polls. The Economist actually shows, one poll shows me winning. Very close, but it's winning, and we're going to have to keep that momentum going. But thankfully, we've been doing that. I say we because it's a whole team of people that are out all across the district. Even just this weekend, we had events at Garrett out, basically all 5 counties, different people representing the Parrott team and working very hard to get our name recognition up and to make sure that people know that we care about them and that we're out in the district. So it's going quickly, but it's really fun, and I'm really thankful for the people that are really getting behind this campaign and helping it to move quickly.
So Neil, tell us what motivated you to run again? It's one, being a candidate is a thankless job. 2, you have all these crazy bloggers just making stuff up about candidates and stuff like that. What made you decide to go through all this punishment all over again?
Well, our country is in trouble. I think a lot of people see it. I've been talking on the campaign trail now for the last year. And unfortunately, instead of getting better, it just keeps getting worse and worse. We have to take back the House in order to bring some sanity to DC. That's where it's going to start. We control the purse strings, and we can add a check and a balance. It's just not there right now with the Biden-Pelosi administration. We have to make Pelosi retire as Speaker of the House. And then also this area, one of the things that motivates me too is that we've been represented in this area, or maybe not represented in this area, by anyone who lives here. Delaney, he lived in South Potomac. He never lived in the district. Trone lives in South Potomac. He never lived in the district. And even now he's further out, 25 minutes even just to get into the district from his house. This is not what people deserve. They need people who they can go to and talk to at the grocery store, at the gas station. That's simply not going to happen with David Trone. He does 25 minutes just to get in the district. He's rarely here. We're seeing him here now a little more because it is the election time. I'm actually seeing him, but I hadn't seen him at all until September when we started doing parades then. But obviously there were a lot of parades over the summer. He wasn't at any of them. He was just skipping it. But I think he's probably budgeted his time between now and November to try and campaign in the district. But then after that, if he were to win, we wouldn't see him again. That's just
Neil, not to interrupt you, but he's been a little busy fighting legislation in Colorado instead of keeping his district offices open. Even though Joe Biden a couple weeks ago in 60 Minutes said the pandemic's over.
Dwight,
his offices are still closed.
No, you're right. Biden just said, we all know it. The pandemic is over. It's been over, and yet Trone continues to have his offices closed. It's unacceptable. It's not good customer service. And you mentioned another thing. He and his brother have spent $2.3 million in Colorado to get a pet project of theirs on the ballot, basically so that Total Wines & More, that's his company, could operate all over the state and put out small liquor stores, just put them out of business. That's his whole goal. We're going to put all these people out of business, and we're going to take over and change the law in Colorado. I mean, you're allowed to do that, but here you have a sitting congressman that's not supposed to be involved in business as a sitting congressman, and yet he's very active with his brother and Total Wines & More. He's really never left that position. I think that certainly violates the spirit of the law that's put there, that people aren't allowed to run their businesses when they're in Congress.
And
so what are some of the biggest issues legislatively that you'd like to focus on in Congress?
We know one of the biggest ones is we cannot afford what's happening right now with the Biden-Pelosi administration. We just can't afford it. We're spending trillions and trillions of dollars on pet projects of theirs, but we don't have the money. We're borrowing it from China. We're actually just printing it. We're just backing up on our own credit. And so, of course, inflation is going to go up. Of course, when you go buy that piece of bread or that loaf of bread, it's going to cost the same, it's the same value, but the dollar has become worth less. So it's going to cost more dollars to get that loaf of bread. Everyone sees it. When they go to the grocery store, to the electronics store, the gas station, it's costing more to buy those products. And it's very unfortunate for people who are on fixed incomes. I really feel badly for those who are retired. They had planned it out, and now they've got inflation at 8 or 9%, and it's been like that for the last year or so. They didn't budget for this, and their Social Security is not going to be able to keep up with that, not even close.
Yeah.
Basically, if people didn't get an 8 or 9% raise in the last year, they took a pay cut. That's almost everyone in this country. We're worse off now than when Biden took office. And we've got to bring the spending under control. We've got to bring inflation back down. We've got to actually help America and American families instead of hurting them like they are right now. It's interesting. They spent $500 billion and Congress didn't even flinch. So that's fine. And through an executive order of Biden, say that they're going to forgive college debts. Well, he doesn't have the authority to do that. That's Congress who has the authority to do that. Even Nancy Pelosi a year ago said that in his speech, said he doesn't have that authority. Only we have that authority. And yet no one's challenged him on it. In the new Congress, we are going to challenge him on that. We can't afford that $500 billion, and it shouldn't be happening.
And I mean, Joe Biden also last week, this proves that all the Democrats are out of touch with the Maryland families when he made a comment on 60 Minutes, 8.3% inflation. Oh, that's just an inch of it's hardly at all gone up. Really, Joe Biden and the Democrats, you're so out of touch with American families. Neil, you and I remember the 1992 campaign with Bush Sr. against Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
He stopped off at the JCPenney's in your district, actually. I think it's in your district, right? The mall in Frederick, that's in your district, right?
It is the district, yes.
Yeah. And he stopped off there and bought a pair of socks, and the media basically bashed him, saying, oh, President Bush bought $5 socks. He's so out of touch with the American people. He could afford to be spending more than $5. And I was thinking, where are these same, because they're still around, those same reporters are still working, where is this outrage? 8.3% inflation. We've got bread is $4.99 a loaf. You could probably find some cheaper bread, but I really wouldn't recommend eating that bread because it's just really bad for you. Milk is $5 a gallon. You've got eggs and you can't store eggs for a long time. They're perishable. So it's not like you can stock up when the prices are low. Prices being things like pasta, ice cream, everything is up. Bacon is up. Ground beef is up. Price of steaks is up. It is this is like really, really, I don't think Joe Biden or any of the Democrats understand really how bad this is. This is the worst I've seen since the Carter years. And I was 4 years old during the Carter years.
No, you're completely right. Inflation's at the highest rate it's been in the last 40 years right now. And the response from this administration is the opposite of Bill Clinton's response. Bill Clinton basically, I feel your pain. I understand the problem. Biden's like, get over it. Who cares?
That's exactly what he says. Yes, get over it, Americans. Stop whining.
It's true. And even with cars, they're saying, oh, you should have electric cars. Let them buy battery powered cars. It sounds to me like that Queen in France.
Yeah, let them eat. By the way, Neil, I pre-ordered a Hummer EV. And when I pre-ordered it, the price they were saying was going to be about 80,000 and some change. I think about 84,000, right? So I pre-ordered it and it got delayed. I gave the deposit. And then I get an email saying, oh, the price of your Hummer is going to be 140,000.
Oh,
I'm like, no, I'm not paying $140,000 for an EV. Mm-hmm. 80, I can imagine that I'm buying an Escalade or a Denali and I'm paying 80 grand for it. But 140 is a down payment on a house. I bet there's parts of Western Maryland where you could buy a house for $140,000.
Oh, you absolutely could. No, and it's just almost laughable how they think that we can go out middle America and afford cars that cost $80,000. That's just not practical. It's not something that we can do. And even if we all did go out and buy these electric powered cars, the grid can't handle it. In California already, they're saying, oh, don't turn on your air conditioning. They just did this a couple of weeks ago. Don't plug in your cars. It's a real disaster. And yet, even that same week, California was saying in the future they're going to remove gas-powered cars totally. We can't handle that. It's
And I think
just,
Maryland's going to do the same.
yeah, it's a dream world that doesn't exist. It's not reality, and it won't work.
And I'm assuming it got a little chilly in Montgomery County yesterday morning when I went running. My hands were so numb when I got back. I could barely use my keys to unlock the door, right? I'm assuming Western Maryland was even colder than it was here. And as people fire up their gas, oil furnaces, I mean, more pain is around the corner. I mean, the price of natural gas is going up. I mean, I feel for anyone that has oil heat in their homes because that is going to be ridiculously high this winter. And
So
yeah.
yes, look, Neil, I know one of the reasons that we're meeting the time we are is that you were out knocking doors, which
Yes.
obviously is the way you win elections. So what are the kinds of conversations that you've been having with people that you've been coming in contact with on the trail?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Just Saturday, we were in Poolsville. We've been all over. And a lot of the similar concerns that we're talking about. When I say, what's your major concern? You know, a lot of people just pause. And some of the people even like laugh at me, like, are you kidding? Why are you even asking that? It's the economy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Inflation's going crazy. So the vast majority of people, when I ask that question, that's the answer. The economy. Sometimes it's a little local issue, like Poolsville. The White's Ferry's been closed, so that's come up. But the vast majority of people all across the district are saying the economy. And Dwight, you hit on something too. This coming winter, a lot of people are going to find they cannot pay their energy bills. You mentioned oil heat for houses. I mean, that's very, very expensive right now. And of course, propane, natural gas, you're going to see those costs way higher than they were because, you know, Europe is in real trouble. They get most of their energy from Russia, and there's been some boycotts of Russia. They're basically going to have to get rid of those boycotts. I think that's probably what's going to happen because Europe's going to be suffering this winter, and also North America, where we are in the United States, is also going to be suffering. People are going to be paying a lot more than they have. I do have some exciting news. I want to tell you on Friday. Basically, a lot of things that we've been talking about in this conversation and that I've been talking about the whole trail is summed up in a document that Kevin McCarthy just put out on Friday. And I'm really excited about it. I printed it out here. It's the Commitment to America. I guess maybe see that. But this Commitment to America is huge. I'm hoping that it takes off just like Newt Gingrich's plan when he had it in 1984. This is the kind of document that we need to put everyone together who's running for Congress so that we can share the most important things. And it's interesting, I was actually doing a speech on Wednesday night and Kevin McCarthy was there. And in that speech that I gave, I said, those 87,000 new IRS agents, we shouldn't be funding them. You get us to Congress, we take over as Republicans, Kevin McCarthy might be the new speaker, that we shouldn't fund any one of those. And that's in the commitment. I was really excited to see that because I didn't know that it was going to be there. And I'll just read the 4 tenets really quickly. The first one is we need to have an economy that's strong. We've been talking about that. The second one is a nation that's safe. And, you know, from Montgomery County, a lot of people, this surprised me, but carjackings since last year have gone up 140%.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable. And that's just scary. So a nation that's safe. Third one is a future that's built on freedom. You know, we talk about schools, parents having choice with their kids going to school, having an input, and also being able to maybe have vouchers so they can choose what schools they want to go to. Obviously, big tech, Facebook filtering one side and not filtering the other side. That's just not fair. Fundamental fairness is what needs to happen. So that's the future that's built on freedom. And then, of course, a government that's accountable. You know, one of the things they talk about here is voting, that we should have voter ID all across the country for people who are voting for national offices. And I've introduced that bill in Maryland 3 different times, that we should have voter ID in Maryland. Works very, very well. I was volunteering in Virginia for another candidate, and I was actually surprised. I went in and I saw what was happening. So, wait a minute, they're all showing voter ID here. It actually makes the lines go a lot quicker. Instead of asking what's your name, where do you live, you just show them your ID. Okay, that's the person. Here's your ballot. So much easier, so much faster, and of course, so much more secure. So those are some things that they're talking about with this commitment to America. And this is exactly what we need at this time, about, like you said, about 40 days before these elections. Get this out there and let people know, when you vote Republican, you're voting for these things. And this is going to what helps get our country going in the right direction again.
Absolutely. And I know Jen Psaki was on Meet the Press this weekend, and she had said, well, Democrats will win if people are voting based off of abortion. And I think she said crime for some reason. I don't know why. But they'll
The
lose
people that are
if it's
pro-crime, the
right.
pro-crime Democrats.
I guess. But they'll lose if the election is a referendum on the Biden administration, which I mean, to me, just was like a, well, duh, isn't the midterm always a referendum on the sitting president? So how do you react kind of to that? And have you seen any of Trone's ads kind of trying to play into that? Okay, well, we need to talk about not the economy and not the Biden administration.
Well, no, his ads, when you look at him, I mean, first, his big ad that he keeps putting out there, he acts like he's a farmer. Look, the guy's not a
That's a
farmer.
hilarious
He's
ad,
a
by the way.
billionaire who lives in South Potomac. Can't relate to us at all. And yet he's trying to, honestly, I look at that commercial like, you're just talking down to us. You believe that you are so much above us.
Hey, Neil, I think
Yes.
what it was when he was a child, he had one of those toy farm sets that he played with. And that's the farm he remembers, his little toy John Deere tractor,
I think you're right. And the sheep that fell over.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
he'd tip over the cows.
that's right. And he's trying to change the conversation, Jackie. I mean, you're completely right. He doesn't want this to be about his record. His record is dismal. It's terrible. He votes 100% with Nancy Pelosi. And yet he comes out and like brags about being a bipartisan legislator. He's the furthest thing from a bipartisan legislature. He doesn't listen to anybody else. He just shoves through what he wants and he votes with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. It's actually quite shameful. There was one amendment to a bill, and I'm just bringing this up because he keeps saying, again, trying to change the topic. Opioids is his biggest issue. He says he's trying to fight the drug problem in this area. And he keeps pointing to things that he's doing. I mean, he'd probably like to give the needles out for heroin use. That's not solving the problem. That's making the problem worse. What we need to do to solve the problem is shut down the border between the United States and Mexico. And also, I was just about to tell you about this amendment. It was the trade agreement. It only comes up about every 10 years, and there was a Republican amendment. Now, a couple Democrat amendments had already passed, so it's to set the stage. It's not like they weren't going to change it at all. Some Democrat amendments passed and changed the bill slightly. So this Republican amendment came up, which said that if a country is sending us fentanyl, it was going to give the president great authority to be able to change the rules on that country and go after them until they stopped sending us fentanyl. Now, mostly that would have been China. That amendment on the vote only failed by 3 votes. Only 3. Had Trone, he voted against it. Had he voted for it, it would have only failed by 1 vote. I mean, he's saying that this is his main issue, and he's saying that he's fighting it and doing all he can. But on that vote, he thought no one would even see it because, and of course, he was doing it as a favor to Nancy Pelosi to make sure that that amendment didn't pass. He betrayed us, I believe, because that's what he ran on the last 2 times. He says that's what he's there for. He had a chance to actually do something.
And he uses his nephew as a prop too, in that other commercial that he has, is basically turned his nephew into a political prop for him.
I think every single one of us has had a relative or someone close to us that's passed away from opioids or fentanyl, but we don't use it as a political tool. We don't use it to try and gain power for ourselves. Yeah, he does. I think it kind of goes to the character of the guy that I'm running against, unfortunately.
And the other point is also David Trone has been very soft on China. He's while Congressman Parrott would be strong standing up to China, opposed to just capitulating as David Trone has done over the years. And I think foreign policy, that's another area where I think David Trone has really betrayed the citizens of District 6. What would be your foreign policy initiatives as a congressman, Neil?
Well, I mean, so many things going on internationally. Even just this week, I saw Iran, actually just yesterday, I just posted on this morning. What just happened in Iran is horrific. And it came out, and this happens all the time, but this time we saw it. There was a young lady in Iran, and the morality police came in, and they said you didn't have basically the headscarf on appropriately. It was on. They just didn't think it was on as good as it should have been. Her brother was there and say she's not from here. She doesn't know. Like, don't take her. But they took her anyway, and they actually beat up the brother and stripped him. And then they took her away, and within hours, she was dead. And the Iranian government said, oh, she had a heart attack. And her family's like, she's had no history of heart. But you see the pictures. There's blood behind her ears. It's very clear that it was head trauma. They beat her up so badly that they killed her. She had brain damage, and that was it. I mean, horrible, horrible murder by these morality police. And yet that's accepted. Like, it's funny that it's not funny, but they had the video cams on, and the family said, we want to see the video cams. They said, oh, well, they were out of batteries. I mean, they're just completely lying. It's unacceptable. And now there are riots all across Iran. And I hope that those continue and that actually this government is toppled, because it's a harmful, terrible government, tyrannical government that's hurting these people. And yet, and under the Obama administration, he signed an Iran nuclear peace deal. I mean, it gave nothing to the United States. There was no security in that bill. We gave them billions of dollars, really for nothing in exchange. I went to a rally where future President Trump was there and Senator Cruz was there. They were saying this is a terrible deal. We shouldn't do it. I brought some people to the rally with me. Look, Biden is really desperately trying to make that happen again. I'll do everything I can in Congress to fight that. There's no way that we should have any agreement with that government, that tyrannical government that hates their own people and hates the United States and hates Israel.
And, we're back in the nuclear deal, which is a horrible deal since Joe Biden announces that it's an outrage, that even, David Trone hasn't spoken out against that. But then again, David Trone has a habit of as one of the reports where he had a Jewish employee at Total Wine. He refused to let her have the high holidays off. And it just smacks of a little anti-Semitism on the part of the congressman, doesn't it? A little bit. I think it does.
Well, for sure, it's not respecting other people and their religion.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to take it seriously, he should have helped them with that, but he didn't. And also, when you look at Israel, he didn't support having Jerusalem be the capital of Israel. I do. He didn't support what President Trump was doing. Look, the peace accords that were happening in Israel, those were historic. Those were, people talking, countries talking that had never been talking before, and at peace with Israel now, signing treaties. That was a huge, huge deal. And unfortunately, Biden, he gets in office and that whole thing falls apart. Trone doesn't care. You think he would, because his wife is Jewish. His children are practicing Judaism. And yet he just goes along with the Democrat machine. It doesn't even stand up at all. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else. We've had you on a couple of times before, so a lot of people know your record in the state legislature. But is there anything that you're particularly proud of from the state legislature that you want to highlight and saying, like, this is what I can bring up to the federal level with me?
Well, it's interesting. There are a lot of things I could point to. And one thing I just want to point to is that I can work with both sides of the aisle, and I do work with both sides of the aisle. Aruna Miller, she's the lieutenant governor candidate right now. And we worked together on the ICC. They opened that road. This is Montgomery County, with a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. And Aruna and I both know that road was designed for 65 miles an hour. There was no excuse for it to be a 55. And I don't know if anyone remembers, but when they first opened that road, they had it heavily patrolled by police.
Yep.
They were ticketing people. Not only were they paying the toll, they were paying tickets to be on that road because it was an artificially low speed limit. We worked together, and we had a bill to say make it 65 miles an hour on the ICC. The day of the hearing, the Maryland Toll Authority came in and said, well, we've studied again, and we're going to make it 60. They didn't want to go to 65. They made it 60. That killed our bill, basically. But we had an effect together. And not everything is partisan. You can work together on different issues with different delegates or state senators, and I'll do the same thing when I'm in Congress. Some things are partisan. You're going to have to stand up and fight for what's right. Like, for instance, in Maryland, I introduced that voter ID bill 3 different times. I knew that the Democrats, for whatever reason, wouldn't want it. I actually tried to work with them and tried to incorporate things like make sure they could get anyone who wanted that ID that didn't have it, they could get a free one from the NBA. Like, try and remove some of the obstacles or the objections from the bill. It still didn't pass. But there have been many different bills that we've passed, been thankful for. And some bills, also I think it was Reagan said, you can get a lot done if it doesn't matter who takes the credit for it. Even speaking transportation, we got I-70 raised the speed limit from the maximum in the state of Maryland from 65 to 70 is now the maximum. That was a big accomplishment. And I know I kind of go down the transportation.
But I
road
tell you,
right now,
Neil,
so-
I wish when you were in the State House, you were able to get the speed limit raised on Route 15. Because,
Yeah.
you know, Route 15 in Pennsylvania is 65. Maryland, it's 50 or 55, you know, in Maryland.
I think it's
And
55. Yeah.
they really
And
need to do an overpass at St. Mary's College over there. They really, because I mean, that's like a accident waiting to happen there. You know, with the college campus on both
course.
sides, you know, they need to do an overpass or something like that. And I mean, I use Route 15, go up to Mechanicsburg in southern Pennsylvania. I'm so happy when I cross into Pennsylvania because I could really just fly at 65, 70, 75 sometimes, you know. But I mean, and the other thing is, I think as a United States Congressman, you understand the plight of people that use I-270 because you use I-270 on a daily basis and you will be using it. And hopefully you can bring some federal dollars for us to widen 270, you know, add HOV lanes and hot lanes, you know. I know a lot of people, Democrats want to rely on mass transit. Mass transit is not the solution. It's just one of the pieces in the arsenal against gridlock, frankly.
No, I was working at the State Highway Administration about 20 years ago when Governor Ehrlich was the governor, and it was the I-270 multimodal corridor study. I was very involved in that project. And at the very end of the study, Governor Ehrlich said, hey, I want you to consider this new alternative, which was to have express toll lanes where the people in the lanes would pay the toll and the other lanes would remain free. It was a great alternative because that was going to allow us to pay for it. Governor Hogan actually took that concept and got approval. He's got federal approval now for that concept, and he just has to sit there and wait out a certain time frame right now before they're allowed to vote on it. And to me, that's very unfortunate, this waiting period. I'm really hoping that Hogan somehow can shorten that waiting period. But I don't think it's going to happen because, you know, Trone had the opportunity in the infrastructure bill. You got a Democrat president, Democrat House, Democrat Senate. He could have put some language in that bill to give some money for roads here in this area. He just didn't do it. We didn't get any widening for I-81. He gave no money to I-270, no money to I-70, nothing for US 219. Very disappointing. There's some serious projects that we could have actually used. And instead, you know, I would have voted against that bill because it was a Democrat bill. And instead of going to infrastructure, a lot of it did go to the Green New Deal type policies. Which,
and human infrastructure, right? As Nancy Pelosi talked about human infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah. Very disappointing. But since he was there, he could have, if he had cared, gotten some money for our roads, but he didn't do it. So I'm really hoping that Governor Hogan's plan is able to move forward faster. If it is, he'll still be the governor with the Board of Public Works and can vote for it and move it forward. With Francho, I think he would agree with the governor and let it happen. Unfortunately, they may have delayed this far enough, and they actually have. If they stick to the regular timeline, that the vote in the Board of Public Works won't happen until we have a new governor. And I'm just really concerned that whoever that new governor is won't move forward with this very, very important and needed infrastructure project for our area.
See, David Trone never uses 270 because he doesn't have to, except every 2 years. So if you didn't, I guess you could put up with the traffic if you only have to use it every 2 years when you're running for office, right? To go up to Western Maryland, I guess you could deal with all the gridlock and all that.
No, that's a very good point. He's not using it much at all, except for the DC.
Has he ever been? Does he even know where Cumberland is or Deep Creek Lake? Has he ever been anywhere? Because I know I've got friends that are up in Deep Creek. I know federal government has done ZIP on dredging Deep Creek because Deep Creek is still you do have to dredge bodies of water. And you do that to the harbors, even though we're not doing that in Baltimore either, because the enviros say you're gonna kill off some smelt or something like that when you're dredging the harbor. One of the problems is, you know, the new Panama Canal, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's wider. They got these super tankers that come through there. None of them can come to Baltimore Harbor because we don't have the proper channels. All the business that would be coming to the Port of Baltimore is going to Charleston, right? And it's going to the Delaware ports where they have done what they need to do, dredge the channels so these big ships can come in. Maryland's losing a lot of business, and hopefully when you're in Congress, you will be able to change that. We'll be able to, because the waters it's under federal domains, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Port Authority only has certain jurisdictions over, but dredging is an important thing. Deep Creek, but David Trone doesn't know where Deep Creek is. He probably couldn't find it on a map.
Well, he does go out there. The problem is he goes out there so rarely.
Every 2 years.
He doesn't seem to care very much about it. Deep Creek is certainly a jewel for all of Maryland, and certainly for Western Maryland. It's just phenomenal. We
were at Rocky Gap last spring for the Republican Party convention. That's a beautiful area in Flintstone.
Yes.
It's a beautiful, scenic. I believe it was Delegate Buckle who told the story. It goes, you go over the mountain, you're in Pennsylvania. You go a few feet this way, you're in West Virginia.
Yeah. So, Neil, are there any other issues that we didn't get to address that you wanted to bring up before we wrap up?
Well, I mean, there are so many things, Jackie, that we could talk about. We just started on the police effort and how we need to support the police. And that's part of, I guess I would just like to finish with this. This commitment to America is critical. And Kevin, I just give a lot of credit to Kevin McCarthy, to the whole team who got together and hammered out an agreement that the congressmen could all agree to and move this forward so we can bring America and put us in a much, much better position than we're in right now. Right now, we are definitely going in the wrong direction. It has to change. It couldn't change soon enough. We have to take back Congress. And I'll just tell you this too. This race for District 6 in Maryland, according to The Economist, it's one of the 8 closest races in the entire country. This is not going to be an easy race. I'm looking for people to help me by going to my website, neilparrott.org, which is just neilparrott.org. You can donate there. You can sign up to volunteer there. We're going to need help to win this race. My opponent is investing about $15 million. He likes to buy these elections. He's bought it before. He thinks he can come in and buy it again. But I believe with the grassroots support, and also we're getting some money coming in to help make sure that our commercials get out. When those start to happen, and with the grassroots effort, I believe we're going to win this year, and we're going to take back Congress. We're going to give real representation to Western Maryland and Central Maryland, someone who actually lives here, cares about this area, and make sure that we put Biden in check and get our country in a better spot.
Dwight, anything else from you today?
By the way, Neil, do you have yard signs for people? How can they get your yard signs and bumper stickers to put on their cars? Because what a Neil Parrott bumper sticker does to a car? It raises the value of your car. And a Neil Parrott sign in your front yard raises the value of your home.
It certainly does. We are definitely looking for people to put bumper stickers on their car. You don't even have to live in the district. You can be close to the district if you're traveling in the district at all. Just getting that name out there helps to reinforce this is a close election. It's important to let you support changing the direction of our country. This is the race in Maryland right now for Congress. It's the closest one. We can win it. Just email us at teamneil@neilparrott.org and we'll get that to you. teamneil@neilparrott.org. And we've got the bumper stickers. We've got the yard signs. We've got bigger yard signs. And this grassroots effort, this is what it's going to take to win. And of course, people want to volunteer. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities like phone calls, door knocking, even helping with letters. So many things that can be done and are being done all across the district right now.
Awesome. Well, Neil, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I know it's been busy on the trail, so taking a break to talk to us is awesome. And hopefully we'll be talking to you next as a congressman.
Sounds good.
Take care.
That'll be good.
Thanks,
I look
Neil.
forward to being on a show when that happens there. Thanks, Jackie. Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you.